Good morning, everyone. Glad you're at our session today. We're going to be talking about how our customers are using sustainable smart building solutions to optimize energy consumption. We're also going to be talking about air quality and a few other use cases in the smart building setting. Very excited to have a customer here with us today from Cherokee County School District. We have with us Matthew Walker and Rocky Simpson, who are going to be presenting in our customer lightning talk today. My name is David Felker. I am the head of engineering, construction, and real estate for AWS. And I want to take just a moment here at the top to kind of introduce the topic and talk a little bit about the market, some of the challenges that we're seeing at AWS, and then, of course, where we see customers benefiting from running their smart building solutions on AWS. And we'll also be talking specifically about a partner solution called Abound, built by Carrier. And many of you may know Carrier as an HVAC company, but there's so much more than that. And they're building really great technologies to help power cold chain solutions and smart building solutions as well. So we'll be talking about that solution today as well. So let's just jump right in at the very top. And I want to start with some market dynamics that are really important to set the stage for why companies are looking to AWS for help in their smart building solutions. So first and foremost, a UN Environmental Council study or environmental program study showed that over a third of global energy demand and a third of energy-related CO2 emissions actually come from buildings. And so when you look at that, there's an immense opportunity for companies to make progress in their sustainability goals just by looking at energy management and energy efficiency within their building. If you can reduce energy consumption, you can also reduce associated carbon emissions. The second key thing that we're seeing in the market is a third of the energy used in buildings is actually wasted. Now, it's easy to look at a facility like this and say, this particular place where we're hosting the conference may have a lot of great energy management capabilities, but the reality is millions of buildings that are operating around the world were built decades ago, and they were built with old technologies that aren't very sustainable, that aren't very efficient. And so there's a huge opportunity for building owners to kind of take a look at their existing asset and figure out how can we optimize the energy use within that building. And then the third area that we're seeing is, energy management is incredibly important, but we're also seeing as we come out of the COVID pandemic, people returning to different buildings and spaces want to know that it's a healthy building. And it's not just about leaky water taps or energy efficiency. It's about is the air quality where it should be. Are the surfaces sanitized? Is the building healthy to come back to? And a majority of the people who are coming back to buildings want to know that the building that they're going back to is healthy. And so when we talk to our customers at AWS, there's three things that they're looking for. They want their buildings to be efficient, sustainable, and healthy. And that's why we're working with companies like Carrier to help build solutions to address these three areas. And why are Carrier and AWS working together? Well, Carrier is a leading global provider of healthy, safe, sustainable, and intelligent building and cold chain solutions. And Amazon Web Services is the world's most comprehensive and broadly adopted cloud. And so as we think about those two things coming together, we see an opportunity to make energy efficiency, air quality, and these different business outcomes more achievable for customers who are looking to implement these solutions in their buildings. So some of the challenges that we hear from customers, and we hear the same three things over and over again. First of all, building data is siloed. And the more buildings you have, the more challenging it is to get to that data. If you think about the typical building management system, it was probably installed back in the 80s sometimes using a proprietary format of some sort, and getting to that data is incredibly challenging. And let's just say that you're able to get to the data. The problem then becomes interpreting the data, because every different system out there has a different way of representing the data. We have a saying that we use in the industry that every building is a snowflake, meaning every building has a unique combination of technology associated with it. You're not going to find two buildings that are exactly the same. There's different vendors, there's different systems, and there's different types of sensors, and each of those have various degrees of technology maturity. So sorting through that can be extremely difficult. And so again, as we looked at the challenge, we said, how can we make this process a lot easier for customers where they don't have to know about all the specific building standard formats and communications protocols, and they can get quickly to business outcomes. So that's the first key challenge we hear. The second thing that we hear about is companies are under a lot of pressure to reduce emissions and adopt a more sustainable operation. And so this is being driven by a lot of different influences. There's regulatory influences. There's just general environmental influences. We all want to be more sustainable. And if you think about things like the Paris Agreement, it sets goals for the future of where we want to be in terms of temperature changes. And it would be easy to say there's a lot of time, but what we're hearing from companies and customers is that they want to accelerate. And they see energy management and air quality and things like this being great opportunities to accelerate in their sustainable goals and operations. The third big challenge that we hear about is the building and owners and operators are facing declining occupancy and evolving customer needs. And again, the way people used a building before the pandemic looks a little different now as companies are starting to come back. With the rise of hybrid working models, we're starting to see more companies use kind of the building in different ways. They want a more agile workspace. And in some cases, that means reducing the amount of square footage that they need for that. So again, the building owners need to figure out how they can introduce smart technologies into their buildings, not only to solve some of the health and safety challenges and the energy management challenges, but also to have their tenants and occupants have a better experience. So these are the three kind of high-level challenges that we hear. And so when you think about IoT and you think about buildings, there's literally hundreds of thousands of different sensors and technologies and devices and data streams that are coming at us from every different angle. And so AWS is creating services that help you ingest this data, act on this data, manage these devices in a way where that data becomes an organizational asset. And that's really our aspiration, is to help you take that data, manage it, and turn it into something that's actually driving your business or your business model. And AWS offers services and solutions to securely connect and manage your IoT workloads. And again, 4 key areas that we're looking at AWS is how can you collect, store, and analyze your IoT data that's coming in? How do you secure it? And again, that's a huge, it's job 0 for us, is security. We want to make sure that the device is secure, that the data is encrypted, and that it's going to the right place and being managed in the right way from the edge to the cloud. And then the third area is AI/ML integration. Again, this is a game changer in the building technology space because we can use all the data that we gather about energy management across thousands of buildings to make better predictions about energy consumption in the future and optimization in the future. And then lastly, scale easily and reliably. Again, that's one of the big benefits of the cloud is if you can do it in one building, with the cloud, you can scale it across an entire portfolio of 1,000 buildings, and it can be done easily and reliably. Benefits of running solutions on AWS, just 3 that I want to highlight here. We can help our partners ingest, process, and analyze their data faster, and that ultimately translates to customers can quickly reduce their energy spend. Second, the cloud has a lower carbon footprint and is more energy efficient, so customers can achieve their sustainability goals faster. And then third, AWS's pace of innovation allows customers to quickly develop new capabilities. And again, instead of having to think about how does Carrier have to build these core technologies to ingest data from sensors, they can rely on AWS to build out those capabilities, and they can focus on doing what they do best, and that's building an outstanding product that addresses energy management and air quality. And so what you're going to find in this talk today is that really innovation on AWS IoT is what's driving this Abound product from Carrier. And their customer, the Cherokee County School District, has had great results, and they're going to talk a little bit about their story today. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to my colleagues here at Cherokee, and they're going to share more with you.
Welcome to the Cherokee County School District. We're 40 schools, 6,000 employees, and 42,000 students. We're committed to educating the emerging generations through learning environments designed to increase the performance of all students. We are the community's largest employer and strongest family.
Hey, good morning. I'm Rocky Simpson, Director of Maintenance with Cherokee County Schools. We've just kind of want to give you guys an overview of where we're at, how we've been there, or where we're moving to with this program. We've had the great opportunity to help build and really push this program in a direction that would help that K-12 environment specifically. We'll hit a few topics as we're going through, some of the big important ones of how do we integrate these systems together, and that's something Abound's doing great. How do we get away from that siloed approach? So the challenges would be that's the major challenge. How do we get that single pane of glass? So it makes it easy for that front office staff, for that teacher, which ultimately affects every student we have within our district. The goals, that would be the goal that we're looking for, is that ease of use and how we're going to get there.
Yeah, so obviously, one of the challenges that we face is obviously making people comfortable in our building, right? So we've all kind of lived in this world for a while now where, is it okay to enter this building? Is it not okay? So as me and Rocky are thinking about ways and solutions that not only that we can make them feel comfortable, how can we display that in a way of real-time data so that they can make sure that no matter what's going on, that they feel comfortable in that building? Several other things that we find to be challenges and goals of ours is to, like Rocky said, make that single pane of glass. We constantly run into situations of being ineffective because we have so many systems, whether it's a badge reader system, whether it's our HVAC system, energy management systems, everything that goes into a school district. There are just a ton. Kind of as you can see here, we just have so many things that's going on kind of in the background. And these are just a few of the things that we deal with. So we really want to reduce that complexity. We want to make sure that from a technician level and from the maintenance department, that we're able to give our technicians a tool that they can use one sign-in to see everything. But then it goes further than that, than just the maintenance department. It goes into our schools. And truly, when we talk about our schools, we talk about everywhere from a teacher to a principal to the front secretary, and then most importantly, the students there. So we wanted to make sure that we kind of come up with a solution that kind of involves all of them.
Yeah, so the solution that we've worked through with Abound and their team, currently it is about getting real-time data in one place. It's great to have the historical data, but what can we do real-time to reduce the complexity overall? The biggest thing that we've been able to do is get a score, a simplified score in front of an occupant to say, hey, this room is deemed safe, and then an explanation of why and where we're moving forward with that. We've already been able to help implement that is currently built into it, with a roadmap moving forward of many, many other systems coming into play.
Right, and so like Rocky said, we're doing that with the Carrier Abound system, and a lot of that is the devices that we're using. So whereas before we're able to use just maybe temperature and humidity, maybe some CO2 thrown in there, now we're bringing other things in there, such as the total volatility compound. We're bringing in different gases, radon, making sure that we're taking all of that data. What we don't want to get into is a situation where something goes wrong in one of our schools and we just have no idea what happened. We can take the data that we have, but what good is that if we have a problem? So now we're trying to think more proactively, and through the Abound system, trying to bring that data in. So at a surface level, it is that that temperature, that humidity, kind of those things. But then looking forward, we're definitely looking to expand that into other things.
Yeah, and the big thing here too is while this is focused on the space and the environment within that space, there's also a great opportunity to tie this back into safety and security. With the physical, how do we lock down a building? What does that piece look like? So with this roadmap setting forward is taking that front office staff that may not be used to the way that school operates, and literally have them a dashboard to where they could click one button and everything initiates, and then people within the building can do what they need to do to make sure everybody's safe and secure, instead of being tied to an intercom system to be relaying messages. Kind of, if you will, have that easy button there so we can really run that through. So it's not only just on the environmental within that room, but how do we make it easier with the safety and security, and unsilo all of our systems and pull them all into one piece, but then create it to where a classroom teacher, a maintenance technician, a principal, all the way down to that student, if we can make their lives easier so this stuff just gets automated, that's really what we're after, to let the teachers teach, to let the technicians work on stuff and not have to think about every little detail that they're doing.
So that kind of rolls us into the benefits of this, and Rocky did touch on some of those. We want to make sure that teacher, her main goal should be educating those students. It shouldn't be about, hey, my room's hot, hey, I worry about this. It should truly be, hey, I need to educate these kids. So from a teacher level, Abound has allowed us and is allowing us to pull in this data from our HVAC system. So it's no longer, hey, I'm hot. What we're wanting and what we're moving towards is being able to get that real-time data to turn it into a work order, so that teacher no longer has to be hot for 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever. We can know real time that, hey, this system has a problem, and we can address that problem now so that teacher can get back to teaching. The students can get back to learning. Several things that we've tried to implement through this is bringing together multiple departments in our county. So we are the maintenance department. Obviously, with security, this involves the school police department. Another department would be the technology department. So how can we all fit in this one thing to bring a common goal, and how do we integrate all this? So the benefit of Abound has really been helping us to bring all the things that we had maybe individually out on an island, put them back into one system, so that we can take that data and control multiple things with that.
And that's a great representation right there. You can kind of see what a real-time potential would look like, in a media center. That's how a display would look. Currently, the display we're using has just kind of the left-hand side of that. So it gives an overall score, an overall color. Hey, this is what we've got. People pay attention. People really pay attention to that. The other day, we had a score, we had a kind of a one-off issue happen. That score got out of range. All of a sudden, it was showing yellow. Immediately, they were on the phone with us saying, hey, get up here, let's figure out what's going on. So that's good. It makes, it does help the occupants. It's something they look at as soon as they walk in the building, and then as it changes through the day. It also, we'll go and kind of touch on it right here.
Yep. Go ahead.
It also goes through the kids, right? So again, about the students, how are we impacting the students' lives with this? Right there, you see it was in the library. It just in different places that you can implement this. But what we want to reach is building that student, building that knowledge, wanting to know what they're wanting and just the interest of the world. So where the student that may be that English major, that's really concentrated there, they kind of get a glimpse into how the building's operating. So then they can build that holistic student. It really is the with that single pane of glass, that's really what we're going to drive home, is that future-ready graduate and making that well-rounded student that goes into the workforce is able to benefit from all these different scenarios that we have.
Yeah, exactly. And so as our county and some of the things that we're challenged with, even from our superintendent, is to have this work-ready and well-rounded student. So as an idea, and certainly something that we're pressing towards, we have a bunch of career tech. Everybody kind of knows a lot about career tech, but now we want to turn that into from just the construction and the automotive and maybe the drafting. Now we want to turn that into, how can I work on systems? Particularly in our case, and something that's interested us, how can I work on HVAC systems? Okay. We want to make sure that through career tech that we're providing opportunities, and with a balanced platform, we can provide these opportunities. We can allow them to be able to take that data, and we can allow them to be able to use that data to train. So now if we have real-time data that's available to our classrooms, all it takes is them simply walking over, logging into that and saying, hey, today we're going to learn about HVAC systems, right? So we want to make sure that we're giving everybody an opportunity. It doesn't matter about whether they're going to, a career tech school, whether they're going to an Ivy League school, whether they fall somewhere in the middle. We want to make sure that well-rounded student really knows and really has a grasp of, hey, this is how real things work in the world. This is really how things work in the world. Because what we want to make sure of is that if they graduate and when they graduate from Cherokee County Schools, that we've done the best thing to provide the same education across the board to each one of these students.
Yeah, and so kind of hitting on the second major point about reducing the energy cost and how we could do that. Abound's also, we're looking and setting that roadmap forward. So a great example that we've talked about is, how does this transfer into that classroom? So if it's real-time data, and I think that's really what I want to stress here, is it's real-time. There is the historical, we can go back and look at the history, but it's a lot easier to get the buy-in from people. If you can see right now, we've shut off the air that's coming to this room, all of a sudden our kilowatt usage, goes down because of that. So that real-time data that science teacher can have, it's one of the things that we talk about. Building automation systems are always in the electrical closet. Let's get that stuff forward. Let's get it in front of people. There's so many useful tools here, and let's let them digest it out. So it's really about pulling it out there. One of the big, got a few minutes, I'll kind of run in this a little bit. It's really, really about, I know we kind of flew over, but it's about getting all those systems to talk together. That's one of the huge things, because all of us have so many great systems individually, but they just don't talk together very well. So even though you miss so much data, you miss so much great stuff because it doesn't collect in one place. So that's really, really what Abound and what we're trying to figure out with them and trying to get the processes through is, how does that look? How does that happen? How do we get all that data into one place?
Yeah, and to Rocky's point, just as a scenario, so we constantly are fighting the battle of occupancies in rooms, right? And this is kind of Rocky's story, but we'll take it. So we're kind of fighting that battle all the time of, hey, how do we make sure that our set points are where they need to be? We don't want to overcool a space and cause humidity issues. We certainly want to make sure that if that room's loaded up, that it's nice and cool. And so kind of the question is, how do we fix that problem? How do we know how many people are in there? So there's also, maybe a little privacy side of that. So certainly you can stick a camera and count those processes and count those people that are in there. But we have systems already in place. In every school system, you take attendance, right? Especially in high schools, they're changing. That attendance gets taken every day. That's how you know if a kid skipped class, right? So now what we're able to do, and from an idea standpoint, is take that system that logs where people are and say, okay, this is how many people are in there according to what that teacher took. So now instead of having and putting more peripheral devices in there, now we're utilizing what we already have. We can take that data that's already being recorded by the teacher, that is required to be reported by the teacher, and now we're able to not only save energy costs, we're able to make a learning environment more enjoyable, more pleasant feeling for the student and for that teacher that's in that room.
Yeah, and the last point that I really want to hit home that Abound is doing is they're making it to where it's easy to read. You don't have those big logic pages full of the micro blocks and all that. It's easy to read. You can get whatever you need out of it based upon what your role would be within the district. So, you got anything? Good?
No,
So really, I know we've got a couple minutes left. We'll go ahead and open it up. If anybody has any questions or has anything they'd like to.
So great idea of getting access to lots of information, but how do you secure it, particularly in an environment where you've got tons of future hacker kitties out there ready to take it down or screw up your HVAC system? What do you do physically, logically, to keep your network secure, keep this information isolated, available, but isolated?
Yes, sir. So the easiest answer there is call IT department, right? So no, honestly, that is something that our IT department's working with Abound. They have the different firewalls set up, the cloud. I think David could kind of speak a little bit to that.
Yeah, and just to repeat the question, because I know we're recording, is what do you do about security of these things? And again, that is job zero for us in the cloud, is to make sure that all those IoT devices, sensors and things like that are being installed in the building, and all the data feeds that are coming out of the building have all the right security around it, and making sure that the operators of the system are credentialed and they have the access to the things they need to see in the system. So again, that is a core tenet of our IoT services and capabilities that companies like Carrier are going to use and build around in their product delivery. Other questions, and I'll repeat the question here if there are others.
I just wanted to know if with the Carrier Abound system, if you've been able to implement any kind of like machine learning type of systems, because I know especially maybe for like the HVAC system, you can ingest tons of data, maybe a certain time of year, certain temperature, maybe the room temperature rises at a certain rate, but you can tackle it ahead of time, so you're maybe saving energy costs and you're creating a safe, a more comfortable environment for the students. But I think you touched on earlier that Abound does have that machine learning capability, and maybe I'm not sure if that's implemented and or could translate to the wider buildings, more than one building. You could kind of implement a system that really can spread across the whole school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so repeat that question. The question was about machine learning capabilities in Abound. And again, going back to the IoT core and the IoT services that AWS offers, AIML is a core function that is really helping shape these products going forward. And again, if you think about air quality usage and energy usage, and you're able to take data that's created in one facility and bring it in, that's good. But if you're able to take data in 100 facilities and bring it in and show that over time, and then compare it against external data sets like external temperature, external air quality, things like that, that's where AIML really shines, is it can recognize what those optimal set points are based on the past performance, and it can predict where those set points need to be in the future based on a number of factors that come in. So that's really a classic use case of machine learning and artificial intelligence applied to a specific business case. So yeah, we're seeing a lot more of that become prevalent in these products. And to me, that is what differentiate these products, is their ability to not only tell you what's happening, but tell you what is going to happen and be more anticipating where the building needs to be set to perform at its optimal condition. So we've got 30 seconds left, so I want to close here today and just say, first of all, there's a ton of great courses out there that we offer for free to help you build your skills in things like AWS services and IoT. So take advantage of that. Multiple lessons, multiple languages, and then of course, as you take those free courses, There's certifications that you can obtain, 11 different certifications that can help you progress in your own careers supporting IoT in the industry. And thank you all for attending today. I hope you found this session informative, and we'll be around if you want to ask questions throughout the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you.